Some bonds are just different. They go deeper than words, deeper than time, and deeper than distance. For Angela, Sultan was never just a military working dog. He was her partner, her teammate, her shadow through some of the hardest days of her life. And even after years apart, a part of her heart still belonged to him. Sultan wasn't the kind of dog anyone could handle. He was intense, stubborn, moody, and incredibly powerful. He liked doing things on his own terms. He had the strongest bite out of any dog Angela had ever worked with. At one point, he even crushed her steel-toe boot. He left bruises on plenty of people, and he definitely wasn't easygoing. But Angela saw something in him. Under all that attitude, she saw a dog trying to figure out who he could trust.
Go, go, go! Keep moving! Good boy, let's go!
Instead of fighting against him, she made him a promise. She would respect him, and in return, she needed him to trust her. Somewhere along the way, that agreement turned into something much bigger.
He saved my life more times than I can count. Coming home.
They became a team, and in the military, that kind of bond means everything. These dogs aren't house pets. They go where soldiers go. They train for combat zones, loud explosions, dangerous situations, and high-stress missions most people will never understand. A handler doesn't just walk beside the dog. They live life together for hours every single day. They learn every tiny movement, every little signal, every shift in body language. Because sometimes, noticing one small head turn or tail movement can be the difference between life and death. That was the kind of connection Angela had with Sultan. She trusted him completely. And he trusted her right back. But sometimes life changes everything without warning. After years of working dogs, Angela's body started breaking down. Her hands began to fail her. She started dropping the leash. The pain got worse, and eventually doctors told her she needed spine surgery.
Pulse is faint. Can you hear me? Stay awake. What's your name?
Vitals are dropping. We need immediate evac.
Then came a second surgery, and just like that, the career she loved was over. She was medically retired. Leaving the military was hard, but leaving Sultan, that was something else entirely. Because this wasn't like saying goodbye to a pet. This was saying goodbye to a partner, a teammate, a dog she had built a life around, someone who had stood beside her through pressure, danger, and exhaustion. Walking away from that bond felt like leaving a piece of herself behind. Even after she left, Angela thought about him all the time. She wondered how he was doing. If he was okay, if he was still working, if he'd ever retire, and where he would end up. For a while, she stayed in touch with people and checked on him whenever she could.
How's the Malinois doing? Is he adjusting well? I really miss that dog.
But as the years passed, life moved on. She moved to Pittsburgh, started school, and built a new chapter. Slowly, she lost contact. Still, she never forgot him. Then one day, out of nowhere, everything changed. Angela got a random message on Instagram. It was from the handler who had taken Sultan after her. He told her Sultan was finally retiring, and then he asked the question she never thought she'd hear. Did she want to take him home? For Angela, The answer was immediate. Yes. No hesitation, no second guessing, just yes. Because deep down, she knew Sultan couldn't just go to anybody. He wasn't an easy dog. He had a history. He had behavioral issues. He could be dog aggressive, food aggressive, and difficult to manage. In fact, nobody at the kennels wanted him. And Angela knew what that could mean. If the wrong person got him, or if nobody stepped up at all, his story could end the wrong way. And she was not about to let that happen. The problem was, wanting him back and getting him back were two different things. Angela didn't have the money or the time to go get him herself. She couldn't miss school, and she couldn't miss work. She was overwhelmed, stressed, and running out of options. That's when Mission K9 stepped in. They help retired working dogs get the second chance they deserve. They rescue them, reunite them, rehome them, rehabilitate them, and make sure they are never forgotten. When Angela called for help, they didn't make it complicated. They simply told her to give them a date.
He's lovely. What are the next steps for that?
They would go get Sultan. They would bring him home. And just like that, hope showed up. Because of his behavioral history, the team had to be careful. They flew from Texas to South Carolina, picked him up, and rented a car to drive him to Angela. It was a long trip, different weather, unfamiliar places, and a lot of change all at once.
The white van slowly turns the corner onto Angela's street. The years of painful separation are finally about to end.
Hey there, good dog. We're so happy to meet you.
You're safe with us now.
Eso, campeón. Entra, vamos. Buen chico.
Can't believe we're almost in Pittsburgh. It's been a long drive, but it will be worth it.
But Sultan handled it better than expected, and Angela waited on the other side, filled with nerves. It had been 4 years since she had last seen him, 4 years since she had looked into his eyes. Then came the moment. Sultan arrived, big, familiar, older, still carrying that same presence about him.
Oh, I missed you so
At first, he was unsure. Everything around him was new again. New people, new smells, new surroundings. But for Angela, none of that mattered.
Oh, I missed you.
She was standing face to face with a piece of her past she thought she might never get back. And that moment hit hard, because this wasn't just a dog showing up at a house. This was a reunion between two partners who had once depended on each other in a world most people will never understand. This was years of love, grief, memory, and loyalty crashing into one single moment. The kind of moment that doesn't need dramatic words, because the truth of it is already overwhelming enough. Even the people helping with the reunion were emotional. Because when you see something like that up close, you understand this is bigger than adoption, bigger than retirement, bigger than bringing home an animal. This is about bringing part of someone's soul back to them. And maybe, in a way, that's exactly what happened. Over the next few days, Sultan started to relax. He mellowed out more than anyone had seen in years. It was almost like he knew the fight was over, like he finally understood he didn't have to work anymore. He didn't have to stay on alert. He didn't have to be the tough military dog every second of the day. Now, he could just be home. And after everything he had done, that's exactly what he deserved. A soft place to sleep, a couch to stretch out on, a quiet life, good food, gentle hands, and someone who knew exactly who he was. not just as a working dog, but as a soul. For Angela, having Sultan back felt like getting a piece of the Air Force back too. A piece of the life she loved, a piece of who she used to be. But more than anything, it felt like healing. Now, instead of wondering where he is, she gets to sit beside him. Instead of hoping he's okay, she gets to see it with her own eyes. And instead of carrying that ache of goodbye, she gets one more chapter with her old friend. A peaceful one this time. No missions, no training, no pressure. Just quiet afternoons, a little sunshine, maybe a drink on the patio, and Sultan right there beside her. Exactly where he was always meant to be, because some dogs serve with courage. Some dogs protect lives, and some dogs, without ever saying a word, become family. Sultan was all of that, and in the end, he didn't just retire. He went home,